Hey team, good to be with you guys, and I'm going to try and make it through this without coughing too much. But welcome to today's Leadership Podcast, part 5 of talking about cell groups. This is going to be our second to last one. After this one, we'll do one more on creativity next week. But today, I'm going to be talking to you about communication. We're in the 5 keys to the 5 C's. And this is found in page 11 of your volunteer handbook, okay, your leadership handbook. So if you have that, you can always refer back to that. That's where I'm pulling this material from. And we're just kind of expounding on that a little bit. And so today is communication. And so we're just going to dive right in, if that's okay with you guys. And when we talk about communication, this is one of the things that I believe is probably one of the most important, if not the most important, to running a cell group. I believe that without consistent and effective communication, it's highly unlikely that you're going to have an effective cell group. Now, I say communication has to be consistent, especially when it comes to these teenagers and their generation, because we are not the only voice these students hear on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. You think about all the voices that they hear. They hear parents every day. They hear teachers every day. Most of them have coaches. They have friends. They have siblings. Some of them have jobs. They have bosses that are all asking something of them, asking them to remember something on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And that can create a lot of clutter in their lives, a lot of things for them to remember. And the reality is that these students aren't very good at prioritizing. They haven't learned the skill of how to make a to-do list and how to write all these things down so that they don't have to remember everything. And so consequently, what happens is these students forget about your group. Not because they don't care, but because on our end we're not doing our due diligence to remind them. You know, I don't think students don't come because they don't care. Are there some of those students? Absolutely, but for the most part, and I found this to be true with the guys cell group, I have found that when I text them day before or even day of, they can't make it because they've already committed to something else because they forgot that we were having cell group today. And you know, I can complain all I want and say, well, how did you forget? This must not be a priority to you, and I can become offended. Or I can look back and I can say, okay, well, what did I do to make sure that I prepared them ahead of time to let them know that, hey, group is coming up? And most of the time I could look back and say, you know what, I didn't remind them until day of. And then when I look at that, the responsibility falls back on me. The fault falls back on me. It's, you know what, I didn't give them a week's notice. I didn't give them a week's heads up. So how can I expect them to remember cell group when they have so many other voices going on reminding them of all these other different things? If you want students to come to your cell group consistently, you've got to communicate to them consistently. And this isn't just a problem within youth ministry. Just a quick example. One of the boys from the basketball team invited Alyssa and I to come and watch their game. And this is something he's around daily. Okay, they have practice 6 days a week. They have games 2 to 3 times a week. And he told us his game was at 6. But we show up at 6 and the girls are playing. And we're like, what's going on? And the game had just started. And we walk over and he's like, oh, I forgot, our game was actually at 7. Well, it turns out all their games are at 7, but he had forgot and, told us 6. And he's like, oh, I really thought it started at 6. And that just goes to show, it's not always that we're doing something wrong, we're communicating something wrong. It is a matter of we're simply not communicating consistently enough. We need to consistently remind these students that, hey, cell group is coming up, would love for you to be a part of it. And so what I think is a good rule of thumb is to remind students 3 times about your group in the week leading up to your event. So a week before, remind them. 2 or 3 days before your event occurs, remind them again. And then day of, remind them that 3rd and final time. Then if they don't come and say they forgot, well, then at that point, I would agree with you, it's on them. And so, but let's just make sure we are doing our due diligence in making sure that that happens consistently. I also say that communication has to be effective, because if what you say is not received, then you didn't communicate. We got to understand that communication is a two-way street. It requires a sending of a signal, but the signal also has to be received in order for it to be communicated. So we could say communication is a two-way street. So one of the things that I think we can do to become effective, and one of the things we're doing with the Guys Cell group, is I'm going through and getting all the cell phone numbers of the parents and all of their mobile carriers, because one of the things that we can do through Church Community Builder is send parents a text letting them know that cell group is happening. And I'm going to be alerting them the same 3 times that I'm alerting students that cell group is coming up. And so this is one of the things that I think we can do. If we can text or call the parents and get them on board with what we're doing, and we can clearly articulate the vision of what we're going to be doing and why we're doing it, then I think parents are going to be way more willing to get their teenager there. So effective communication has got to go beyond just communicating to the student, but I think it's got to go above and beyond to the parent as well. Get the parent in the communication loop. If you remember being at the parent huddle, a couple parents were like, hey, I want to receive those texts. That sounds really cool. Let's get away from email. Send me a text directly to my cell phone. That would be really helpful. Because parents, their minds are just as cluttered and with voices in their lives as the students. And it's not that they don't care about the youth ministry, it's that there's so many other things going on. Their lives are so busy and so hectic, they simply just forget. It's not a matter of not caring, it's a matter of us not communicating consistently and effectively enough. Again, that communication, it has to be received. Now, in order for something to be received in the business world, it's got to be communicated at least 7 times in 6 different ways. Crazy statistic. And then finally, this is what I want to say about communication. You communicate with students, parents, then I need you to communicate back to me. And this is something that we will be working on with Church Community Builder when we meet a week from today at 6:30 at mine and Alyssa's house. We'll be training you guys how to do this. So I'll go over it in more detail there, but essentially on Church Community Builder, you're going to have your cell group, and then each time you meet, you'll be able to record attendance, prayer requests, and wins for the night. And that's going to help, on a corporate level, help all of us steer pastoral care, and ultimately is going to help the communication efforts on a Wednesday night, which is going to be really cool. So your communication efforts on a cell group level, if we can all grab a hold of this and we can all communicate effectively together, get the parents on board, and then when it comes back to me, looking over the youth group as a whole, it's going to really help the communication on a Wednesday night, I believe, as well. So from the micro level to the macro level, this is so huge. This is so huge. And I wrote this down. The quickest way we can become frustrated as leaders is to experience a breakdown in communication. Let's overcome this by being a team that proactively initiates communication with these students. Here's my final thought for you. If I can stop coughing. Don't wait for the students to contact you. If you do, you'll be waiting a really long time. Okay? Go get these students. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to be proactive. Love you guys. Hope you have a good day. See you this Wednesday. Peace.